Test. Testing. All right, guys, we're getting started here. Let me All right. All right, guys, we're live here. Let's go. Let's get started on this. So, had some audio and some video and some TikTok problems and all kinds of stupid things going on, but that's how it goes sometimes. So, today I want to talk about estimating mistakes. If you haven't listened to the podcast, it dropped today. Every Monday morning it drops, and this was episode number 121, the 5 estimating mistakes that cost me money. That cost me big time. So, we're going to touch on those today. Any questions that you have for me around estimating, make sure that you let me know in the comments, and appreciate that. I've been working on the new video. I got new lighting. I got new cameras. I got new audio. I got new mixers. Got all kinds of new production stuff to make the experience even better for you guys. So I appreciate that. But yeah, if you have any questions for me, comments about estimating, throw it in the chat. If there's nothing else we get done, you got questions about other stuff, we can answer that too. But right now I want to focus on estimating and some of the big things that I did wrong and that you might be doing wrong and how it might be costing you a lot of money. So yeah, let's jump to it. Like I said, episode number 121 on the Hammer and Grind podcast. There's 5 things that I did wrong, and I'm going to list them out, and then we'll dive into these. Number 1 is I didn't job cost. I mean, I just straight up didn't job cost at all for like years and years until I learned that I should be job costing, and then I actually did it, and it made a big difference. Number 2 is not taking good notes on the site visit. I can't tell you how many times that this bit me in the butt. Number 3 is waiting too long to actually do the estimate after you've done the site visit. Number 4 is using 100% effective rates, and we'll get into that here in a little bit. Number 5 is not including time for planning, supervision, or administrative time into my estimates, right? So all of these things factor in, and if you do, if you only do 2 of the 5, you're doing okay. If you do 4 of the 5, it's going to cost you a lot of money. If you're doing all 5, it's going to cost you a significant amount of money, right? So number 1, job costing. I've talked about this till I'm blue in the face. Definitely doesn't hurt to talk about it again. But if you don't know what job costing is basically at the end of the job, going over your job and looking at the actuals versus the estimate. This is how much money I estimated. This is how much it actually costs, and seeing the difference, right? It sounds pretty like easy to do, which it kind of is, but it also sounds like it wouldn't provide that much value, but it actually provides a ton of value because we can't make decisions in our business without data. And so when you do job costing, it gives you the correct data that you need to make decisions. See, a lot of us guys, we make emotional and intuitive decisions. Now, intuitive can help us, like your gut feeling, right? Like a lot of times we can make gut decisions that are correct. It's like that little voice inside your head. But sometimes we mistake like intuitive for emotional. Like we'll make an emotional decision, we'll have an emotional reaction to something, we'll translate that as a gut feeling, and then we make a decision based on it. So when we're making any kind of financial, specifically financial, if we're making financial or any kind of major decisions, we want to have enough data in order to be able to make the right decision, right? So if you do job costing, then you have the data. You'll be able to look at this, say, okay, I estimated it was, I had $15,000 in materials. I came back and I had $18,000 in materials. What happened? Why was that $3K over? Where did that come from? Right? That's pretty easy to see your material estimates where they may be off, right? So that's number 1. The other thing, though, which is even more important, which is your labor. And labor can be affected by tons of different things. It can be affected by you just estimated too low. Like you thought the job was going to take 50 man hours, but in reality, it was a 60 man hour job and you just totally underestimated it. It could be your crew's having a bad day. Your guys are having a bad day. It could be weather related, right? You're working outdoors, it rained half of a day, that can set you back. Like there's so many variables that can affect your labor production rates that you really, really, really need to be checking this stuff and understand what they are. But if you're not job costing, you won't have any idea what any of that stuff is. So you have to job cost. And I get this question a lot, and that is, well, if you're doing the same job, like maybe you're a maybe you do epoxy floors in a garage, right? And so every time you do an epoxy floor in a 2-car garage, like you would think it's going to be the same every single time. And so if you're doing like hundreds of those, do you really need to job cost them? The answer is yes, you do. Because there's, at the macro level, there's big things like weather and delays and people being sick and all that. But at the micro level, there can be things like, how efficient are we? Right? Are we doing it very efficiently? Is there weather concerns? Was there things like uh, customers' pets that got in the way or whatever it might be? Like you can keep dialing this in until you have it so refined that you know exactly what stuff's going to cost. So yes, you should be job costing even if you're doing the same job over and over and over again. And you kind of have a general result, the same result every time. You should always be looking for opportunities to improve, right? So yes, you should be job costing. Any questions on job costing, throw them in the comments. I'll come back to them. Number 2, not taking good notes on the site visit. Man, am I guilty of this. So guilty of this. And if you're doing a lot of free estimates, you're going to be guilty of this probably. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you're better than I was. But when I was doing, I mean, there were weeks where I was looking at like 10 jobs a week. And just, I thought I was killing it because I'm like, hey, I'm telling my guys, hey, we're, it's crazy busy, guys. I got 10, 15 estimates this week to go look at. And then I may end up getting, 1 or 2 of those jobs. Bunch of wasted time. But because I was doing so many estimates, I would go out there and I would look at it, and I didn't want to spend, an hour or 2 talking to them and getting all the information. So I would just kind of loosely take notes on what it was. If it was a bathroom remodel, I just put in there, like, oh, it's a 5x8 standard bathroom, right? 60-inch, wide tub. But then I would forget to measure if it was a 32 or a 36-inch tub, right? Or maybe it was an older one. Like I wouldn't get that measurement. Usually you have a little knee wall that comes out or bump out wall, the tub's in, and then there may be 2 or 3 or 4 inches of drywall wall past the tub. And it could be something as simple as you thought it was a 32-inch tub and it was actually a 36, or vice versa. Like that information can really screw you up, especially if you like order a tub. If you're doing like a fiberglass insert and you order a 36-inch and you get out there and it's actually was a 32. Your plumbing's off center now, the wall's not long enough. Like all these things can factor into decisions. So if you're not taking good enough notes when you're going out and doing your estimates, it can definitely come back and bite you in the butt. And this is the number one reason why you should be charging for your consultations, your estimates. I don't care, consultations, estimates, site visits, those all get thrown around loosely. It doesn't matter. If you're going out to their house to get measurements, talk about the job, to us, that's a consultation. So if you're doing free estimates, free consultations, you need to stop that. Number 1, you need to absolutely stop it. And number 2 is that when you charge for your consultations, now you have more focus on actually getting the correct information. So there's this crazy thing, psychological thing that happens, guys. When you pay a lot of money for something, you actually appreciate it more, right? I could go buy a $3,000 used vehicle, and I could go buy $100,000, Denali HD 2500 pickup truck for $100,000. The vehicle still gets me where I want to go. Either one, both vehicles will get me to where I need to go. So it does the job. But if I pay more for something, I'm going to take care of it more. In other words, I'm going to put more effort into making sure that when you're getting paid to do a consultation, you will actually put more effort into making sure you're giving accurate information and you're giving value back to them. It's also the same thing that when your clients actually pay you more money, regardless if you do anything different, when people pay more money for stuff, they believe they're getting more value out of it, right? So, case in point, like you could be, let's say you're a bathroom remodeler and you typically charge $15,000 for a bathroom, right? You could literally charge $20,000 for the exact same bathroom, and the person who paid you 20,000 will feel like they got more value out of it than the person who paid you 15,000, even though you did the exact same thing. You didn't change anything about your process. When you pay more money, you feel like you're getting more value. It's a psychological effect that we have. I didn't make this up. You can go research it. There's thousands and thousands of data out there to prove this point. It's the same with my coaching programs. See, I've done coaching programs where, it was a monthly fee to get in there, and when you're only paying $2, $3, $400 a month, yeah, it's a lot of money, but it's like, well, I don't, $200 is not the end of the world. Versus if you have to pay three, four, five, six, $10,000 for a program, you will want to get your value out of that. So people that come into my coaching program who pay a lot of money, thousands of dollars to be in there, it naturally makes them psychologically want to do the actual curriculum, to participate, to do better, because it's like, well, I'm going to get my money's worth. I'm going to get my value out of this. So it's a psychological effect that happens with that. So taking good notes. So that we did a full circle there on that. But when you charge for your consultations, it will allow you to take better notes. It will allow you to give more time, consideration to your clients because you're not rushed, right? Because for one, you're not doing as many estimates per week, but two, you're not rushed while you're doing your estimates. So that was number two, was just not taking very good notes on site visit. And there's lots of apps, Magic Plan and Canvas and all kinds of stuff that can help you to get better data, but you just got to make sure you're taking good data, good information, good notes on your estimates. The third thing, which kind of piggybacks on that, is not doing the estimate soon enough. So if you if you go out and you look at an estimate or do the consultation on a Monday, and you're like, oh, I'm pretty busy, customer, it's going to take me a week or two, to get back to you. And they're like, okay, no problem, Brad. And then 2 weeks goes by, like I've already forgot all that information. Like all the little details about how things were and how far I had to walk from the driveway, and how was it upstairs, and like how far away from the end of the house was. Like that stuff's not fresh in my mind. And so I go back and I do an estimate 2 weeks later. A lot of those details get missed. They get lost. And then if you don't have good notes when you go out and do an estimate, that makes it 10 times worse. And there's been plenty of times where I had to go back out and get more information because I simply didn't have enough information to be able to put the estimate together. And that's kind of embarrassing when you got to call the customer back and be like, hey, I got to come back out and get some more measurements, right? Now you're starting to already show that you're incompetent. So yeah, I'm already familiar with this sin. Yeah, 100%. So like when you go out and do your estimates, try to get them done as soon as possible. Now I'm a big fan of time blocking, and I tell my clients, like, you shouldn't just react to stuff. So this is a little bonus here. When you should have days and hours of the weeks dedicated to certain activities. So it's not someone calls me today while I'm out working on a job. If somebody calls me and they want an estimate on a bathroom model, hey, can you come out and give me an estimate? And I'm like, oh yeah, I'll stop by on the way home. And then you go by there and do that. Like, don't do that, guys. I know that I understand the desire to want to get out in front of them, but you should have scheduled times in your calendar when you do things. My guys know that when you're doing your sales calls, because we don't do free estimates, so we do what we call discovery calls. When we do our discovery calls with our clients to get information about their project, so we can give them a ballpark price, so we can get a commitment out of them, the next step, which is a paid for consultation, or even sometimes a paid for deposit, right, straight to deposit. They're scheduling their weeks so that they're only taking their sales calls, their discovery calls, when they're at their best. So if you're like if you like to, you don't get going. Like I was the type of guy, like I wouldn't get going until like after lunch. Like in the morning, I wasn't worth a crap. After lunch, I'd be twice as productive as before lunch. So, if you're not good at talking on the phone, if you're the type of guy, you got to have like 3 pots of coffee before 10 o'clock before you even wake up. You shouldn't be doing sales calls or estimate visits at 8 o'clock in the morning if you're just not at your best. Like when you're doing your sales and your estimates and all that stuff, you should be at your best. And so you need to schedule your weeks around that. You need to schedule it so that you're at your best. So when you do that, then you can also schedule when you do your estimates. So a lot of guys will block out one day a week. It's like, hey, Wednesdays is when I do my physically do my estimates, on paper. And then the sales calls are at different days and times of the week. Or you may do it twice a week. Monday afternoons and Friday afternoons is when you do your estimates. Whatever, I don't care. Create a system and stick to it. Have the discipline to stick to that. All right. But don't wait too long to do your estimate. Number 4, using 100% effective rates. This is a big one. I did a video on TikTok about this recently. Here's what we do when we bid jobs, especially if you're not on the tools anymore. We bid jobs based on how we would do it when we were on the tools and we're at 100% effectiveness. So let's use a door installation as an example. A standard front door, maybe you can do it in 2 hours. Maybe, I don't know. Let's just say you can do it in 2 hours. So you bid the job and you say, yeah, I could do this job in 2 hours, right? Which, whether it's a fixed rate or hourly, I don't care. It's like, I can do it in 2 hours. So you assign it to your guy, your lead guy, and he goes out there and it takes him 4 hours. And when he gets done, you're like, dude, what took you so long? Why did it take you 4 hours? Right? Well, first off, there's not a single employee in the world who's going to care about your business as much as you do. So one, by nature, employees production rates are going to be lower than yours. Just right off the top. Nobody's going to work as hard as you in your business. I promise you. I was having a conversation yesterday with my cousin, and he was changing jobs recently, and he was working for this company that did automations. They go in and like set up automations for manufacturing facilities. And the owner has about, they have half a dozen or dozen employees or so. And my cousin was trying to help them out, right? This guy was like, he would work like 16 hours a day. Like that was his MO. He would work 16 hours a day, and he was expecting his employees to work that as much. And he would say the cliche things like, well, I never asked my guys to do anything I wouldn't do. And it's like, okay, so you wouldn't ask him to work 18 hours because you wouldn't do that, but you would ask him to work 16 and think that's perfectly normal. It's not normal. He was telling me that they would go out, they had to go do like all over the country, so they would go there for like a week or two, do an installation and come back, and he would send his guys out there for 2 weeks and have it set up so that they're working 16-hour days for 2 weeks straight. So it's like, hey, this is a 2-week install, but you're going to have to work 16 hours a day to get it done. Guys, that's completely unrealistic. And you're going to burn out your employees and they're going to quit, right? Yes, there's times where you have to work late and work, a 16-hour day once a month. That's not a big deal. Not a big deal at all. But when you're expecting your people to work like 12, 14, 16 hours every single day for long periods of time, it's just not realistic at all. So you have to understand that your team is not going to be as effective as you are. And here's the second thing to that is that our mind, like we may think that we can, 2 years ago, the last time we were out in the field, I could do that door in 2 hours, right? But like somehow magically over time, that time gets shortened. So like in 4 years, you haven't been out in the field for 4 years, you're thinking you could do that job in 1 hour. Like, I don't know what it is, but somehow our brain just starts thinking we can do it faster and faster and faster. And so when you're bidding bigger jobs, where it's 40, 50, 200, 500 man hours, you will shortchange the crap out of that, thinking that they're going to be able to do it in a much quicker time than what they're actually can possibly do. So you have to understand right off the bat, they're going to be about 80% production of you, like just right off the bat. And then on top of that, what happens is, and this is even more important, when you bid a job, let's say, for sakes of for making it easy, if you think that you can do one person, maybe you got one guy who works for you, so he's going to go work 40 hours, do this install, right? 40 man hours, like 40 hours of production. Okay. So you bid the job at 40 hours of production. The reality of it is you're not going to get 100% effectiveness out of your team. It's just not possible. You're not factoring in setup and teardown time. You're not factoring in, heavy traffic one day. You're not factoring in the materials that get sent to the job were wrong, and now you got to go to the store and get a new material. You're not factoring in the customer who wants to be there every single morning and have a 30-minute conversation with you about what's happening. Like, all of these things that you're not factoring into your estimate will completely destroy your productivity time. So you're not even getting 100% effectiveness of the time that you figured. So really, a 40, man hour job, let's say 5 days a week, a 5-day job is really going to take you 6 days to complete. So you're bidding it for 5 days, but you've already shot yourself in the foot because technically it should be a 6-day job. So one thing you can do to help combat this is, if you think it's going to be 40 hours or whatever it is, add 20% to the hours, not your rate, to the hours. So if it's 10 hours, you would estimate for 12, and so on and so on. That will help to combat some of the ineffectiveness of your production time, also combat some of your unrealistic expectations of what your employees, production rate should be. So not using 100% effectiveness on stuff is really going to bite you in the butt big time. The last thing, and then we'll get into some Q&A here. The last thing is not including time for like planning, supervision, admin time, all that stuff. A lot of times as owners, we're like, hey, my time's free. Like, I don't charge extra for my time. So if I got to stay up at 1 o'clock in the morning and figure out, how much material we need to order and do the scheduling, then that, it doesn't cost anything. Yes, it does. It does cost. It costs your time. It costs uh, your mental, your, what's the word I'm looking for? It costs your sanity. There you go. Like, and beyond that, if you ever step out of that role, you're going to have to pay someone to do those activities. So what you need to start charging now. So you should have supervision time built in. You should have any administrative time built in, and any type of planning and stuff like that. Like, some of you may go to the building commission and pull 3 or 4 permits at one time, like, which is smart for you to save time. But each one of those projects, you should have time factored in to going and pulling the permits. So if it's like an hour ordeal for you to go downtown or to the building commission or whatever and pull the permits, then you should factor that on every job. And so if you do that, and even if you go down there and pull 4 at one time, that's great. You got paid 4 hours for doing a 1-hour task. Like, that's a benefit. But it doesn't always work out like that. Sometimes you're gonna have to make a special trip to the building commission to pull a permit for that one job, and you can't lump it in. Right? Same with trash. We would take off our own trash. I have a trailer. It wasn't a dump trailer, but it was a converted, like, lawnmower trailer that we could put trash in. And I would charge trash as if I had to go to the dump and dump that by itself. So, it doesn't matter if I'm going and I got to take one piece of drywall off and throw it in the trailer, which I'm not going to take that to the dump, or if I'm filling it up completely to the rim. It's the same, because I'm factoring it as if I'm going to take that single thing to the dump and get rid of it, even though I may have 6 or 7 jobs combined in that trash trailer before I take it to the dump. So a lot of you guys are bidding jobs trying to save the customer money because you think it's going to help you sell that job. but you're setting yourself up for failure, because the one time that you're like, well, I can save money, I won't charge them for going and getting the permit. I won't charge them for taking the trash off. I'm not going to charge them any extra administrative time. And then that's the job where you got to make a special trip for the dump. You got to make a special trip to get the permit. You got to spend an extra 3 or 4 hours on some administrative time that you didn't plan on. And all of a sudden, that job that you try to get a deal on so you can get the job, you end up losing money on it. And you guys can't do that. It takes discipline. It takes immense discipline. It also takes confidence, by the way. It takes confidence in the system that works. And this is probably one of the biggest benefits that I help clients with, is by giving them the system that works, right? And then when you're in a community with other contractors who are already doing this, you can see on a daily basis that people are winning. People are having success. One of the things that we do in our private Facebook group for the Profit Club is every day we're posting wins, because it helps us to reinforce that it's possible. If I'm the new guy thinking, man, there's no way I can charge for estimates. Nobody else does it. Nobody in my town charges for estimates. I can't do it. But then you're in the Profit Club and you're in the Facebook group and you see 6-7 people a week posting how they got their first consultation, how they just charged, $1,500. One of my clients who's been in since the beginning or near the beginning, one of my best performing clients, he just recently charged $5,000 for a single consultation. He builds like agricultural buildings, post-frame buildings, stuff like that. Larger projects, $100,000 $1 million projects, buildings. But he charged $5,000 to go do one estimate. And I guarantee you, I can speak for him. 2 years ago, he would have told you it was literally impossible to even charge $100 to go get an estimate. He would tell you right to your face, it would be $100. $100 to go do an estimate was impossible, and now he's charging $5,000. So when you have the confidence in what you're doing, and you have a system that is proven that works for you, it makes it 10 times easier to be able to do those things. So guys, those were the 5 things that cost me big in estimating. I'm curious if you guys did listen to the podcast, throw a 1 in the chat. I'm just a little random survey here. If you've already listened to the podcast that dropped this morning, estimate or episode 121, throw a 1 in the chat. I'm just curious. And if you did, post your biggest takeaway. If you didn't listen to the podcast, but you've been watching me this whole time, put in there what was your biggest takeaway so far? Like how did this help you? How did this information that I just gave you, how did it help you? I want to get feedback from you guys, because it helps me to know, if there's information that I need to do better, to talk about more, to go more in depth. It just helps me by giving me feedback. So put in there what your biggest takeaway from the podcast or from this live that you've gotten so far. And while you're doing that, I'm going to go check some comments. So we had Deuce, if you're still in here, he says, I work for a lot of contractors. Should I subcharge a GC for estimates? Potentially. It depends on what you do, and it depends on the relationship that you have. So you can charge for estimates. However, it's going to be a lot more difficult with a GC. If you're, it depends on, like, are you getting every job that you bid? Like if GCs are calling you, let's say you're a tile sub and GCs are calling you, and you have 3 or 4 or 6 GCs that you work for, and they're not even having you bid jobs. Like, you just do a square foot price, and it's like, hey, Brad, I got another one for you, put me on the schedule. Like, there's really no reason to charge for that. But if you're going out and giving estimates because they need it, and you're not getting every job that you estimate, then I would definitely charge. I would start charging for that. So it just kind of depends on some more information. If you want to share that with me, I can get more in depth on that. Jason F., what's the highest top line and EBITDA in a business that you have ever run yourself? I don't disclose my business information, Jason. Okay, I'm very familiar with this. Yes, sin. What what ERP CRM do you recommend? Jason, it also depends on what you do. So that's kind of a loaded question. There's several different CRMs, ERMs that I can recommend, or ERPs I can recommend. I like Progil. If you're like a remodeling contractor, general contractor, potentially even a landscaping contractor, someone who does more project-based stuff, Progil is a pretty good one. Job Tread is also a pretty good one. And then if you're looking for just like estimating, Cost Certified is pretty good as well. The thing with CRMs and stuff, man, is there's so many twerks and nuances and like the needs that you have. It's really hard to like say this is the one you need to use. But I like Projo a lot. That's the one I used. Tick Ross says I still struggle thinking back 10 years ago production rate of myself. Yeah, we all do that. G Shock says, what is your hourly rate for what? G Shock, my hourly rate for what? I find most guys don't factor cleanup or startup time during the bid. Oh, 100%, Daniel. Yeah, 100%. It costs your time and knowledge, G Shock. Yeah, you set up and break down. Yeah, yeah. Buckaroo says, I appreciate your message earlier. Sorry I haven't responded. No worries, man. Or I'm assuming it's a man. Definitely appreciate your content. Thank you. When tile is different color, I install. Now he wants me to reinstall. What should I do? How you say your name? Psalm? I can't say that. When tile is different color, I install. Now he wants me to reinstall. What should I do? I mean, guys, if you want me to help you, you have to give me really detailed information. Like I can't even advise you on what to do because there's not enough information there. Did you have a contract? Did he provide the tile? Did you provide the tile? Did the customer sign off on it? Did they sign off on one color and you installed a different color? Did he provide the tile and you installed it and now he doesn't like it and wants you to do it? Then no, you shouldn't do that. Like I need a lot more data. Remember, guys, data. You need data to make decisions. And the more data you have, the better your decisions can be. So give me some more data on that and I can give you a better answer. For me, you're saying stuff I know mostly, but it's great to hear it reinforced. Okay, cool. Thank you. Just got here, looking forward to getting your coaching. Awesome. I'm trying to transition to charging for estimates. Well, what's the hold up on that? Because it's not that hard to do it. What's Yoda say? There is no try, only do. So, what's keeping you from doing it? Facebook says, where do I find the podcast? It's go to any podcast you want, like Player, Spotify, iTunes, and just search for Hammer and Grind Podcast. You can also go to my website, Hammer and Grind. Here, I'll do a fancy little screen transition. You can go to hammerandgrind.com and you can get the podcast there as well. There's a player built into the website. But you can go to any of your favorite podcast players, just search for Hammer and Grind Podcast. Not to be a dumbass and shortchange yourself. The more data you have, the better off you be. Yeah, absolutely. You need more data. I'm just reading from Facebook, guys. Using effective production numbers. I've been guilty of thinking everyone on my job has 30 years experience like I do. Yeah, 100%. We all do that. And another thing, just to piggyback on thinking everyone has 30 years experience like I do, when you hire someone, even if they say I've been doing this for 10 years, you got to give them time, guys. Like they're not going to come in 3 days be at max production. It's just not going to happen. Like they have to learn where the freaking tools are in the van. They have to learn how you want things done. Like it's not just they have experience, so then therefore they should be able to produce what you produce. Like that's just completely unrealistic. Uh, Deuce says, I feel if I get in front of a customer, I can win the job. Hard to ask for paid estimates and not get that. So Yes, there is definitely an element of human connection when you're standing face to face. So, if we're talking specifically about the win rate probability for in-person estimates versus doing a phone estimate first and then a paid on-site, an in-person estimate will always have a higher win rate probability. Like that's of those two options, if we're looking specifically at win rate probabilities, it's going to be far better in person if you're a good, if you're a people person, if you have good communication, people skills, right? Because people like them. So that's true. However, that does not mean that you cannot still win jobs over the phone, because you can if you learn how to speak the language of buying. And the language of buying from a customer's perspective has absolutely nothing to do with the scope of work, and it has absolutely nothing to do with how good you are. Nobody cares about your pedigree. They don't care about your experience. They don't care if you've been doing it for 527 years. They don't care how many awards you've won. They don't care about that stuff, guys. Every day I still see contractors talking about, we've been doing this for 30 years, so we know what's up. It's like, no, nobody gives a crap. All they care about is, what are you going to do for them? How are you going to help them? That's it. So when you learn the language of buying, which is 100% emotional and not knowledge based, then you can still sell jobs over the phone. But when you're trying to sell over the phone using factual information like estimates, I mean, not estimates, like measurements and scope, and how smart you are, it doesn't matter. If you guys could see, I mean, I wish there was a way we could do a like a I could show you a live call that one of my clients have done, that you got to deal with all of the recording laws and all that crap. But it's nothing like you think it is. I mean, it's just nothing like you think it is. There's My clients are selling jobs. When I say sell a job, I don't mean like they're selling over the phone. I mean, they're selling the job, and then they're selling the consultation. So they're getting on the phone, they're doing the estimate, then they're selling the consultation, or they're selling directly to a deposit, and then they're going out to their house, and then either signing the contract or giving them an estimate, whatever, but they're getting paid for doing that. Regardless if the customer hires them or not, they're getting paid to go out there and do that. So that's what I mean by selling jobs over the phone. So clients can sell jobs over the phone, and, like, I'm not joking on this, literally not even know any details about the color of the product, what type of product it is, any of that. Like, it's not that important. It really is not that important. Yet us as technicians, we need to know what size it is, what color it is, what material it is, all of that stuff, right? Because that's what we need to produce the job. So we're trying to sell jobs as a producer when we should be selling jobs as a salesman, which is salesmen sell based on emotion. I don't know how to break that down any more than that. Like, this is the number one thing contractors do. Ring ring, hello. Brad's Construction. Hey, Brad, I'd like to get an estimate on a bathroom. Okay, I'll come out on my way home from work. When I get done with the job, I'll stop by there and see what it is. I get there. Hey, customer, what do you want done? We want to get a bathroom remodel. Okay, I'll get some measurements and then I'll get you a price. Sounds great. You measure it up. I'll get you the estimate in a few days. Okay, thanks. A few days later, you send over the estimate for $15,000. 3 days go by, you don't hear anything. A week go by, you don't hear anything. The old follow up. Hey, John, I'm just following up with you to see if you had any questions, or if you made a decision on on the bathroom remodel yet. Ghosted, right? Or Oh, sorry, Brad. We ended up going with someone else. Thanks for coming out though. Guys, that's not selling at all. There's literally nothing that was being sold in that conversation. Nothing. Not a single damn thing was being sold. Right? Versus the phone calls that we do, discovery calls. It's like, "Hey John, this is Brad, blah 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 blah. Tell me, how are you hoping we can help you? How long you been thinking about doing this project? Besides you and I, who else is excited about this project? Oh, your wife? What's she think about it? Oh, she doesn't want to get it done. Okay. So this sounds like it's just more you that's wanting to get it done. And how does she feel about it? Oh, she wants a kitchen remodel. Ah, okay. Yeah. Well, what's got you guys wanting to do this project now? Or I should say you. What's got you wanting to do this project now? Oh, you just got some money from work, got a bonus. Nice. Congratulations. So now we're ready to spend some money on this project. Yeah, how is your current bathroom affecting how you're, living now? Oh, you don't have any room in there? You both can't be in there together? Like you're just bumping elbows all the time? That's gotta be frustrating. Like, guys, this is just like the most generic example I can give you on this. But just in that little 3 minutes of each, it's two totally different experiences. Two totally different experiences. So the first guy who runs out and gives a free estimate is going to lose to the guy who understands how to sell value and how to sell, emotion. And he will not only will he get the job, but he can sell it for 3 times the price that the other guy was selling it for. And I get so much pushback on this all the time. I get so much pushback on this process, and it works if you work it. Okay, I went off on a tangent there for a second. Let's see what else we got here. I feel like, yeah, okay, that's where Deuce got me into that. I struggle having an absolute process. Yeah, I mean, I can help you with that. Just got to let me know. He provided the tile, and I told him difference and was different size as well. So, Saul, listen, if you, I'm not trying to beat you up with this, okay? I'm not trying to beat you up, but this is your fault. And here's why it's your fault. If you know ahead of time that something is not right and you do it anyways, that's your fault. If you're going to do it, you need to have them sign off an actual contract or something that says, release of liability. I don't care what you use. But if you know, like, hey, this isn't the same color, it's not the same size, it's not going to produce a very good outcome. And he says, I don't care, I want it done anyways, then you're signing this. It's going to clearly state out that if the final product installed does not match color or size, then we are not responsible for replacing it. That's number one. A lot of you guys are out there operating on handshakes, which is okay to an extent, but it's not okay if you're going to be ignorant to understanding liability. I've done hundreds and hundreds of handshake jobs with 0 contracts and had no problems with them because I understood how to communicate for one, and I understood liability of where things could go wrong, right? So you can't just take everything at face value and then on the back end try to fix it. So, me, if that was the case, I would straight up tell the guy, "Listen, I'm not installing this tile. It doesn't match. If you want this tile installed, you better find somebody else because I'm not doing it. I'm not putting my name on that. I'm not taking the liability because I already know that when it's done, you're not going to like it and you're going to want me to redo it, and I'm not doing that." So you have to stand up for yourself, guys. And if you don't have a good marketing in place, if you don't understand how to create a brand, and you don't have the phone ringing off the hook nonstop, it makes it 100 times more difficult to turn down jobs like that because you need that job. But when you have 30, 50, 100 people calling you every month, begging you to come do work, throwing their checkbooks at you because you do good work and you have a good brand and you understand how to provide value, it's it's 100 times easier to say, I ain't doing that job. Hell no, I ain't doing that. If you want me to do it, you better get the right stuff, right? You guys got to get out of this operating out of fear positioning that you have in your business. And it takes very good branding and it takes marketing. I get pushback all the time too from guys. Well, I just work off referrals. I've been doing this for 20 years and I just do it all off referrals. If that's true, then why does Coca-Cola spend millions of dollars advertising? Because everybody knows Coke. They already know, everybody knows what Coke is. They don't need to advertise. So why do they spend millions and millions and millions of dollars a year advertising something that everyone already knows? Because you have to. You can't rely on referrals. Coke understands how to sell emotion. When they're taking the Coke, drinking it, and it's guggling, goo, 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 and it's got ice, water on the outside, and it's a hot day. They've got that dialed in. They got it dialed in on how to tug at your emotions. And you can't just rely on referrals to stay in business. It's dumb. It's freaking dumb. Daniel says thoughts about discounting the estimate charge if you're you 100%. A lot of times we'll give the credit back. If I charge 250, $500 to do a consultation, I get the job. I'll give my line item $500 credit at the end. A lot of guys do that. Totally up to you on that. It does help with some of the people that are like, I don't know about, paying $500. What if we don't hire you? Like, it does help with some of that. But it's not a requirement to do that. What about commercial projects where I'm dealing with GCs as a specialty sub, not a homeowner? That's different, Hector. That is a different scenario. However, you can still pre-qualify people, your GCs. You may have to do a free estimate, but you can still further pre-qualify the job before you actually go do the estimate. So you can ask some questions. You can get on the phone with the GC, ask them basic questions, right? And then make sure that it's going to be worth your time to go do that bid. So that it's a little bit different for commercial, but I mean, I do have some clients in commercial who they do charge for like doing the estimate if they have to go out there on site, but they don't have to do that. Like usually they can give an estimate based on a floor plan or based on the information that they're giving them, through an email or whatever. Obviously depends on what you do. Like maybe all you do is polish concrete, right? That's all you do is polish concrete. Well, you don't really necessarily need to go see it per se. You just charge a square foot price, and maybe you have two different prices, one for regular concrete, one for jacked up concrete. And you could just get a couple pictures and give them some pricing over the phone. Like there's ways to reduce the liability of not getting jobs. David says, what's the best answer when the client asks for a price breakdown? The best answer is, hey, David, that's a great question. I'm just curious, what are you hoping to find out with the price breakdown? Because I want to know, what are you looking for? Are you looking to see, are you going to compare my prices to someone else? Or are you, is the estimated price $10,000 over your budget? And you're trying to see where you can save $10,000. You want to hire me, you like me, but you're trying to save $10,000. If they say, well, we're just trying to see where we can save some money. Oh, I can actually help you with that. What, where were you wanting to be at? What price point? Well, we wanted to be at 50. Okay. My estimate's at 60. So it sounds like we need to shave off about 10 grand. Yeah. If we can come in around 50, then we're ready to move forward. Okay. You mentioned, that it would be nice to have this as part of the project, but you weren't 100% sold with it, right? Like it was a nice to have. Yeah, it would be nice to have. Well, that thing that you wanted, that's $8,000 of the estimate right there. So if we eliminate that, I could save you $8,000 and you don't have to give up anything else. Oh, well, that actually works out perfect. Yeah, if we could do that and be at 52 and still get all the other stuff we want, then yeah, we're ready to move forward. So I'm going to ask, the first question is always, what are you hoping to find out? And if they say something like, well, we're wanting to see, how much labor there is or how much materials there are. Well, now that's going to give me an indicator that they're probably looking for price. right? They want the cheapest price. So hopefully that'll help you out, guys. But really, it's about, again, data. Find more data. Where can I get more data? Ask better, open-ended, calibrated questions to get more data so we can make decisions. The number one thing you don't want to do, though, is make assumptions. So when someone says, "Can you give me a price breakdown?" Instantly we think, "Oh, these mother effers, all they want to do is compare me to so and so down the street, and so they can pick me apart." You don't know that. It may be true most of the time, but you don't know that for sure. So get clarifying data before you make any assumptions. Facebook says we can charge for estimates in our fiberglass pool business, but not in our mechanical industry. Yeah, I mean, the commercial is going to be a little bit different, guys, for sure. It's going to be a little bit different, but you can definitely pre-qualify better than what a lot of guys think they can, so that you have a lower percentage of jobs that you're not going to get going out and doing free estimates for commercial jobs. So, guys, with that, I got to hop off here. I appreciate you hanging out with me. We're back. Should be back live Monday on next week. And in between there, check out my podcast if you haven't yet. If you want help in your coaching on TikTok, just go to my profile right here and click on that. There's some information. You can also go to my website and get information there, hammerandgrind.com. You guys on Facebook, I'll throw it up on the screen for you. You can just go to hammerandgrind.com, and there's all kinds of information there. My podcast, there's some free resources for you. Got a free job costing. There's a labor burden worksheet you can purchase. There's a free sales pre-qualification guide. Dude, guys, it's like, I don't even know. It's like 30 pages long. I have a no BS guide to eliminating tire kickers. It's a complete guide on how to pre-qualify people. And it's like 30 pages long. It's got all the questions we ask. It's got everything to get you a good understanding of how to do it. And even a lot of guys can even take that information and actually implement it. So if you want that, you can go to my website and download it. You can go to on TikTok, you can go to my profile. There should be a link directly to it in there. But all that information is there for you guys to help you out so you can have a business that works for you instead of you working in your business. And if you want any further help from me, if you're interested in some coaching, you can always schedule a free strategy call with me, 30, 45-minute call. I'll look at your business. If I can't help you, I'll even give you some suggestions on what you can do to make some changes in your business. Totally free. All you got to do is sign up for it, guys. So I appreciate you hanging out with me. I'll see you in 1 week, if not before. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.